The unfortunate side effect of creatine they never warn you about. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you clicked on this video, chances are you're either already taking creatine, thinking about starting it, or you just heard someone at the gym whisper something scary about it, and now you're spiraling a little. Don't worry, that's exactly why we're here today. Creatine is hands down one of the most researched, most talked about, and honestly, one of the most hyped up supplements on the planet. Bodybuilders swear by it. Your gym bro cousin probably has a tub of it sitting on his kitchen counter right now, and science genuinely backs it up as one of the safest and most effective supplements out there. It's cheap, it's been studied for decades, and it consistently shows up as one of the few supplements that actually delivers on what it promises. But here's the thing, nobody really sits you down and explains properly. There are some side effects that come along with it that most brands, most influencers, and even some coaches just don't warn you about. Not because they're hiding some dark secret, but because most people either don't experience them, don't talk about them, or just assume everybody already knows. So today, we're breaking down 8 things about creatine that you deserve to know before you scoop that powder into your shaker bottle again. Some of these are physical, some are mental, and a couple of them are honestly just myths that got way out of hand online. Stick around till the end because number 6 and number 8 might genuinely change how you think about this supplement completely. But before we begin, drop your name and the city you're watching from in the comments below. Alright, let's get started. Number 1, that puffy water retention. Look, let's start with the one almost everybody notices first, whether they admit it or not. You start taking creatine, and within the first week or two, you look in the mirror and think, wait, do I look bigger? Puffier? And no, you're not imagining things. Creatine pulls water into your muscle cells. It's actually part of how it works, since more hydrated muscle cells create a better environment for muscle growth, strength output, and recovery. But the side effect nobody prepares you for is that this water retention doesn't just happen in your muscles. It can also show up under your skin, especially around your face and midsection. So if you've ever taken a before photo, started creatine, and then felt like your face looked rounder in your after photo despite eating the same and training just as hard, that's very likely why. This can be a genuine confidence hit for people, especially if they're already self-conscious about their appearance or actively trying to lean out. You do everything right, you're consistent in the gym, your diet hasn't changed, and yet suddenly your jawline looks softer, and your stomach looks a touch rounder. It's easy to jump to the conclusion that something's going wrong, when really your body is just adjusting to holding a bit more intracellular water than usual. The good news is this is temporary, and it usually evens out after a few weeks as your body adjusts to the new baseline. Some people don't notice it at all, while others notice it pretty dramatically, depending on their body type and how much water they were retaining beforehand. But if nobody tells you this in advance, it can genuinely mess with your confidence and make you think the supplement is bloating you in a bad way, when really it's just doing exactly what it's designed to do. Number 2, the stomach drama is real. Ever taken a scoop of creatine on an empty stomach and then spent the next hour feeling like your gut declared war on you? Yeah, you're definitely not alone there. Gastrointestinal discomfort is one of the most common complaints, especially when people take a large dose all at once, like during the old-school loading phase where you're told to take 20 grams a day split into servings. Bloating, cramping, gas, and even diarrhea can show up, particularly if you're using a cheaper, less refined form of creatine monohydrate that doesn't dissolve well in liquid. If you've ever noticed little undissolved grains sitting at the bottom of your shaker, that's usually a sign your stomach is going to have to work overtime to break it down. Some people also make the mistake of mixing their creatine into something acidic, like a citrus-flavored drink, thinking it'll help it dissolve better, when in reality, that combination can sometimes make stomach upset worse for sensitive individuals. Others take it right before a workout on a completely empty stomach and then wonder why they feel queasy mid-set. The fix that almost nobody mentions on the label is ridiculously simple. Spread your dose out across the day. Instead of taking it all at once, take it with food rather than on an empty stomach. Drink plenty of water throughout the day and consider a micronized version of creatine that mixes more smoothly and gets absorbed more comfortably. Most people who swear creatine doesn't agree with them just needed to adjust how they were taking it, not necessarily stop taking it altogether. It's usually a timing and dosage issue, not a creatine is evil issue. Number 3, your scale might lie to you. Here's a mental gut punch that catches a lot of people off guard. You start creatine, you're training hard, eating clean, doing everything right, and then you step on the scale and the number goes up. Panic mode, right? Because creatine causes your muscles to hold more water, it's extremely common to see a jump of anywhere from 2 to 6 pounds in the first couple of weeks, even if you haven't gained an ounce of actual fat. This is purely water weight sitting inside your muscle tissue, not new fat on your body. But if you're someone who's emotionally attached to the number on the scale, or if you've been tracking your weight closely as part of a cut, this can genuinely trigger frustration or make you feel like your hard work isn't paying off. This is especially tough for people who are new to fitness and haven't experienced this before. They start a new supplement expecting to look leaner and more defined, and instead, the scale creeps upward and their brain immediately assumes the worst. It's a completely understandable reaction, but it's based on a misunderstanding of what's actually happening physiologically. The lesson here is to lean on other markers of progress instead, like how your clothes fit, your strength numbers in the gym, your energy levels during workouts, or progress photos taken in consistent lighting and poses, rather than obsessing over the scale during those first few weeks. Once your body reaches its new water saturation equilibrium, the scale tends to stabilize and reflect your actual body composition changes much more accurately. Number 4, the cramping myth and the half-truth hiding inside it. For years, creatine had this reputation for causing brutal muscle cramps, and honestly, that rumor still floats around gyms today. But here's where it gets interesting, because the actual research doesn't support creatine directly causing cramps in properly hydrated people. What actually seems to happen is that people take creatine, feel more confident, push themselves harder in their workouts, and don't increase their water intake to match. Since creatine pulls water into your muscles, if you're not drinking enough fluids overall, your body can end up slightly underhydrated everywhere else, and that's when cramping becomes more likely, especially during intense training sessions, in hot conditions, or during long endurance-style workouts. Think about it this way: if you suddenly start lifting heavier, doing more volume, and pushing harder because you feel stronger thanks to creatine, but your hydration habits stay exactly the same as before, you're essentially asking more of your body without giving it the extra fluids it needs to keep up. That mismatch is often where cramping sneaks in, not from the creatine molecule itself doing something sinister to your muscle fibers. So this side effect is less about creatine itself being the villain and more about people not adjusting their hydration habits to match their new training intensity. If you're taking creatine, treat water like it's part of your supplement stack, not an afterthought. A good rule of thumb a lot of coaches recommend is simply drinking a bit more water than you're used to, especially on training days, to stay ahead of any potential cramping issues. Number 5. It can mess with how you feel mentally. Now here's one that almost nobody talks about, and it's honestly a bit surprising. Some people report feeling a little off mentally in the first week or two of starting creatine, describing it as brain fog, mild irritability, or just feeling different in a way they can't quite explain. Emerging research has actually started looking into creatine's role in brain energy metabolism, since your brain uses the same phosphocreatine energy system your muscles do. Your brain is an incredibly energy-hungry organ, and some scientists believe that shifting your body's creatine stores can temporarily influence how your brain processes and utilizes energy, which might explain why some people notice subtle mood or focus changes early on. For most people, once their body adjusts, this settles down completely, and some people even report better mental clarity, improved focus, and less fatigue during demanding days once they're past the adjustment period. There's also growing interest in creatine's potential benefits for cognitive performance, particularly during sleep deprivation or high-stress mental tasks, which is a pretty exciting area of ongoing research. But that initial adjustment window is rarely mentioned anywhere on the supplement label, so if you feel a little strange the first week, know that it's usually temporary and not something to panic about. It's just your body recalibrating to a new normal, and it typically passes within a week or two as your system finds its balance. Number 6. The hair loss debate. Nobody fully settled. Okay, this is the one that probably made you click on this video in the first place, so let's actually dig into it properly. There's a popular theory floating around that creatine increases a hormone called DHT, which is linked to male pattern baldness in people who are genetically predisposed to it. This theory traces back to a single study from years ago that found creatine supplementation increased DHT levels in a small group of rugby players. That's genuinely it. That's the entire foundation this whole creatine causes baldness narrative was built on. There hasn't been strong, consistent follow-up research proving that creatine directly causes hair loss in the general population, and plenty of long-term users, including competitive athletes who've been on it for years, never notice any hair changes at all. What makes this myth so sticky is that it sounds scientific and specific enough to feel credible, and hair loss is such a sensitive, emotionally charged topic that people latch onto any possible explanation, even a shaky one. Once something like this gets repeated enough times across forums and comment sections, it starts to feel like established fact, even though the actual body of evidence behind it is pretty thin. That said, if you already have a family history of male pattern baldness and you're someone who wants to be extra cautious, it's not unreasonable to keep an eye on things or talk to a doctor about it before starting supplementation. But for the average person, the fear here is massively overblown compared to what the actual evidence shows. This is exactly the kind of thing that spreads like wildfire online because it sounds dramatic, not because it's well proven. Number 7. Your kidneys aren't actually in danger, but here's the nuance. This might be the most persistent myth in the entire supplement world. Somewhere along the way, people started believing creatine destroys your kidneys, and this fear has scared off more beginners than almost any other rumor out there. Here's the more accurate picture. Creatine slightly increases creatinine levels, which is a waste product your kidneys filter out, and that's normal because your body is processing more creatine overall. This can make blood test results look slightly abnormal to someone unfamiliar with how creatine works, even though your kidneys are functioning completely fine and simply have a bit more filtering work to do. Doctors who aren't familiar with a patient's supplement routine have occasionally flagged this on routine blood work, which only adds fuel to the myth when someone hears your creatinine is elevated without any context. Long-term studies on healthy individuals taking recommended doses have not shown creatine to cause kidney damage, and this supplement has been studied for well over 2 decades at this point across a huge range of populations, including athletes, older adults, and people using it for various health-related reasons. If there was a widespread kidney danger lurking here, it likely would have shown up clearly by now, given how much research has been done. The nuance that does matter is if you already have pre-existing kidney disease, reduced kidney function, or other kidney issues, that's a completely different situation, and you should absolutely talk to your doctor before adding any supplement to your routine, creatine included. But for the average healthy person hitting the gym a few times a week, this fear is wildly disproportionate to the actual risk, and it shouldn't be the reason you talk yourself out of trying it. Number 8. The one nobody warns you about, becoming dependent on it mentally. And now here's the one that genuinely surprises people, including plenty of long-term lifters. This isn't a physical side effect like the others, it's a mental one. After weeks or months of consistent creatine use, some people start to feel like their strength or performance drops the moment they skip a dose or run out. Since creatine builds up in your system over time and contributes to how full and hydrated your muscles feel, missing it can genuinely make you feel slightly flatter or a touch weaker in the gym, at least in the short term, while your muscle creatine stores gradually decline. But here's the twist. A good chunk of this is also psychological. Once you've associated a supplement with feeling strong and capable, skipping it can trigger a mental dip in confidence that's just as real as any physical change, even if the actual performance difference is tiny. This shows up in some pretty relatable ways too. Maybe you ran out mid-week and told yourself your bench felt weaker even before you got under the bar. Or maybe you traveled somewhere and forgot your tub at home and spent the whole trip convinced your workouts were suffering. Sometimes that's a real measurable dip, and sometimes it's your brain filling in the blanks based on expectation rather than actual performance data. This is the side effect that almost nobody talks about because it's not something you can put on a warning label, and it's not something a study can easily measure either. It's something you only notice after being consistent for a long stretch. And it's worth being aware of so you don't panic if you ever have to pause your supplementation for any reason, whether that's traveling, running out, or just taking an intentional break. So there you have it. 8 things about creatine that rarely make it into the marketing, the tubs, or the influencer hype videos. The overall takeaway here isn't that creatine is dangerous or something to be scared of, because honestly, it remains one of the safest and most well-studied supplements available on the market today. The bigger point is that being informed means you won't panic the moment your face looks a little fuller, your scale ticks up, or your stomach feels a little off in week 1. Knowledge like this is what separates people who quit a good supplement out of confusion from people who stick with it and actually see results long-term. Understanding the why behind these side effects takes away a lot of the fear and lets you make smarter, calmer decisions about your own routine. Now I want to hear from you. Have you personally noticed any of these side effects, or maybe one that wasn't even on this list? Drop it in the comments, because your experience might genuinely help somebody else watching this video who's nervous about starting. And hey, if this video helped clear a few things up for you, do me a favor and smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay strong, stay consistent, and I'll see you soon.